Alright, I have a new series I want to start here on TikTok, where I'm going to do a rewatch of all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers and make a single video about each one, involving some topic that is brought up in the episode. So obviously we're kicking this off with episode 1, Gilmon Comes Alive. And I've arguably kind of already covered this episode with this video here, but that was before I had this whole idea, and I have more to say about this episode. Digimon Tamers is the third series of Digimon, where the first two had a continuity with each other. They maintained all of the legacy characters from the first series to the second, and even the conflicts of the world continued from one to the other. This is the first time in the franchise where a new series means an entirely new world, an entirely new set of rules and characters, and that means it had a lot going against it right off the hop. People who were following this show because of the characters they love are now going to have to jump into this new thing, and this brings us to me talking about two decisions I think were incredibly smart with this episode. First is the idea that this series is going to take place in a world much like our own, where Digimon is already an anime, card game, etc. This is aimed at the kids who already watched the first two seasons and were wishing, like, what if this were real? What if I could go on my own Digimon adventure? And made that the protagonist of this series. So while it's not going to have Tai and Agumon in here to get everybody jumping on board, it's trying to put Takato in this place that most kids watching it are going to be able to go like, oh my god, that's me.
Hey, what if it wasn't just a TV show or a game? Wouldn't it be amazing if they really existed?
I suppose. Why do you ask?
Well, no reason. Never mind. Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome, I guess.
Well, I'm sure they're real. They gotta be.
And speaking of Takato, there's the fact that this episode is almost focused solely on him and his POV. Where in the first ever episode of Digimon, we're introduced to 7 characters, there's 7 Digimon, and 1 villain Digimon, all in this one episode. And even in the first episode of O2, we have almost all the legacy characters coming back, as well as introducing 3 new characters and at least 1 new Digimon. This one takes a different approach, in that it's almost entirely focused on Takato. It's really just focused on him and his journey to getting his Digimon. It creates a much easier jumping on point for past fans who already know what a Digimon is, and new people who might just come in and be like, okay, what is any of this? Who are these characters? What do I need to know? And then of course, if you're going to take this premise of what if Digimon were real, it has, of course, the perfect ending. If Digimon were real, is it going to be scary to meet your partner Digimon? And that's exactly what we ended on. This cliffhanger. Is Gilmon gonna attack Takato?
Please, don't do it. Gilmon, stop!
If you want to follow along my rewatch or do the rewatch with me, be sure to hit that follow button, and hopefully this is going to be a good time. Continuing on my rewatch of Digimon Tamers, making a TikTok out of all 51 episodes, one episode at a time, it's time to talk about episode 2, Digimon Everywhere. We end the first episode on the cliffhanger of what if Gilmon's about to attack Takato? What if Digimon are dangerous if brought into the real world? But this is answered immediately because of course Gilmon is the living embodiment of the I'm just a baby sound. But because of this, we spend the entire episode on this idea of what is the responsibility of having a Digimon, and comparing it a lot to having a pet and all the responsibility that comes alongside this. We're spending a lot of the episode on Takato having to hide Gilmon, on having to feed him, and what happens when you leave your Digimon all alone and he gets up to some trouble. All of course come to a climax when Terriermon kinda calls him out for maybe being a shitty tamer if you can't keep track of your Digimon.
You must not be a very good Digimon tamer if you can't even keep track of just one Digimon.
Terriermon?
What? What? It's not my fault if he stinks at it, right?
And I am just waiting for an episode more Terriermon focused because I love this little guy and I really want to talk about it more. But of course this all reaches the point where Takato is seeing the responsibility needed in this and is trying to get Gilmon to understand that he has to listen. Meanwhile, the other important element I really want to talk about here is how we're starting to get a little bit of what Rika is like. Starting with her first scene in this episode where she puts on a pair of sunglasses just to take them off and look cool. Renamon has an entire fight where Rika's just kind of pushing Renamon, trying to make her better, and having a lot of attitude about it. But this whole thing ends with Rika just having this little prideful smile. So even as much as Rika is kind of being an asshole, we're seeing that there's something more there. There's something deeper. She does care to an extent. And of course, it's really important that nearly every time we have seen Rika or Renamon so far has been in these fights where they are destroying other Digimon, because that means this cliffhanger where it looks like Renamon's gonna be fighting Gilmon leaves us with a bit of anxiety. Is Gilmon gonna be okay? Be sure to hit the follow button to follow along as I watch every episode of Digimon Tamers, and let me know if you're watching along with me and what you are thinking of the first 2 episodes so far. I'm talking about every episode of Digimon Tamers, one episode at a time, and it is time for episode 3, to fight or not to fight. First, just a couple quick points. We got Takato multiple times blushing over Jerry. We're definitely setting up that there's some kind of crush happening here, and it is adorable. But a more important tiny point is we got the introduction of Momentai.
It's not very smart to mouth off to someone bigger than you.
Henry, Momentai.
You take it easy.
We're getting more Terriermon in this episode, and I love it. But of course, the big thing in this episode, as the title is alluding to, is the question of whether or not it is a Digimon's purpose to fight. We have Rika on the side of, yeah, what else would they do? And Henry on the side of, no, they're our friends.
What are your Digimon fighting about anyway?
That's a dumb question. What else are Digimon supposed to do?
Anything they want to do. They're not fighting machines, and they're not our slaves or pets either. They're our friends, you know? They just want to do the same sort of things we do.
And to go alongside this debate is the fact that Henry is saying to Terriermon that he never wants him to digivolve. Because digivolving is a sign of power, and this isn't about power, this is about friendship. And Rika, of course, is on the other side of it. She's on the side of fighting, so she wants Renamon to digivolve to be more powerful more than anything. And of course, because irony is fun, it is Terriermon who digivolves by the end of the episode, and we see how as Gargomon, he has no control. He is too powerful for his own good and just starts shooting up an entire parking garage. This is going extreme enough that Rika's even having second thoughts. Is this what all Digimon do when they digivolve? Is Renamon gonna turn against me like this?
Are they always like that when they digivolve?
But one last little tidbit is the fact that although Henry is on the side that Digimon are there to be your friends, not to be fighting machines, we still see him questioning what their real purpose is. Before we get to the final climax fight, everything happening here, we have Henry saying that on the net, their purpose is to fight, but they've come to Earth for something else. What could that be? Leaving this question just lingering in the air. What is the reason Digimon are coming to our world? Hit that follow button if you want to continue on this journey of watching every episode of Digimon Tamers. And what's left to say but Momentai? Continuing on my series of a TikTok for every episode of Digimon Tamers, it's time for episode 4, It Came From the Other Side. And this is a Terriermon heavy episode, so I am so excited. And of course, the thing I most want to talk about with this episode is the origin of Terriermon and Henry as a Tamer-Digimon partnership. We get a lot of flashbacks in this episode where we see that Henry was gifted a Digimon game some time ago, and while he got more and more into this game, he started to realize that the Digimon inside of it might actually be real, and he develops an emotional connection with Terriermon. Not only that, but we see that Terriermon actually became Gargomon for the first time a while back, and this is the reason Henry doesn't want him to digivolve. He's already seen the chaos that could come from it, and doesn't want his Digimon involved in hurting others. Which really feels like a twist on expectations from what we've seen from past shows, where the first time we see a Digivolution is usually the first time it happens. And we gotta talk about Gorillamon, a Digimon that's coming back from Henry and Terriermon's past, kinda haunting them a little and reminding Henry of all the reasons why he doesn't want Terriermon to fight. A little fun fact with this is Gorillamon's actually voiced by Paul St. Peter, the same actor who voiced basically every villain in Digimon the movie, where he was Infirmon, Diaboromon, and more importantly, Wendigomon, Antilamon, and Cherubimon. At least the virus side of the voice that's coming out of there.
Playtime's over.
And of course, the connection drawn between Terriermon and Wendigomon and the concept of the Digidestin/Tamer's past that is established in that movie kind of being brought into this with Gorillamon's connection to their past. Now, it's not nearly as big as the fact that Terriermon and Lopmon were twins, but it's still interesting in that fun fact kind of way that we could draw all these interesting parallels between the past and present and the relationships these Digimon have to the evil Digimon, and that's only emphasized by the fact that they share the same voice actor. And very quickly, a couple things from this episode I want to put a pin in from now, because we should get better answers later, is one, where are these blue cards coming from? Now Henry and Takato have both gotten them, and they have gotten them Digimon. What's happening to bring these cards into our world? And secondly, the question of what happens to a Digimon if their data isn't absorbed by the Digimon that defeats them? Is it like past seasons where they could just be born again in the digital world, or are they just gone forever? Very interesting to think about it. I'm glad this show is actually asking this question. And the last thing I really want to talk about in this episode is Digimodifying, something that's been in every episode so far, but here they're calling more and more attention to it and its importance in battle. Digimodifying is, of course, when a Tamer swipes some kind of card to give their Digimon some kind of effect. And while we've seen it in the past with Renamon and Rika all the time, often to just give a speed boost, a strength boost, some kind of weapon, this time we're seeing a little bit more strategy involved in it, where we see Henry swipe a card that's meant to be strength training for his own Digimon and using that against the enemy Digimon. We're seeing how these things don't have to be used in a very literal way, and it's adding more complexity and interest to the whole mechanic. But anyway, that is episode 4. Be sure to hit that follow button if you're interested in following along with the rest of my adventure through Digimon Tamers. I make a TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, and it is time for episode 5, Dream a Little Dream.
If life were fair, I'd be in Maui.
And this is big because we're finally putting Calamon in focus. Calamon's actually the first character we see through this entire series, and yet I haven't talked about him yet because he's been so backgrounded, so much existing in a way that feels like set up for later rather than things to really talk about now. Little instances where, say, the symbol on his head lights up just when other Digimon seem to digivolve. Is it a coincidence? The show hasn't told us yet. But in this episode, rather than just being a scene or two, most of the episode is focused on him and the idea of if Takato and Henry could find him a Digimon tamer. Calamon's looking for fun, more so than anything else. He's not looking for one singular tamer, he wants to just play with everybody. And anyone who just wants to be serious is a huge bummer to him.
Now that's a deal that makes sense. Everyone in the whole wide world will want to play with me, the most clever Digimon ever!
Continuing on the mysteries of what's up with Calamon and the symbol on his head, when Gilmon draws out that symbol on the soccer field, it actually summons a Digimon. We're being teased more and more that this symbol means something to this world. And one last thing about this episode is this is the first time we arguably sort of see all 3 of the main tamers working together in a fight. Really, it's the first 2 work together and then Rika shows up with Renamon and just wins, but it's close. And of course we get this exchange that starts off with Rika saying she doesn't believe Digimon are real living things, only to seemingly question this when Calamon's involved.
Digimon are living creatures, and you kill them.
He's right. They are alive.
No, Digimon are nothing more than data. Renamon? Huh?
Oh,
What is that little thing?
hi! Wanna play?
Hey, don't you touch him.
Anyway, that is it for episode 5, just under 10% of this entire journey, and that's exciting. So, be sure to hit that follow button if you want to keep up with all this, and I will see you next time. Continuing on my series of making a TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, it's time for episode 6, Oh Partner, Where Art Thou? And there are 2 major things we gotta talk about here because this episode is highly focused on Renamon and Rika's partnership, and then we have the introduction of Impmon. Starting off, this episode is much like how episode 4 was to Terriermon and Henry, in that we are seeing the backstory of how Rika and Renamon came together, how she got that blue card, and how Renamon showed up to her. But there's a big difference between how Rika got Renamon and how the other 2 got their partners, because this seems straight out of a horror movie. All these Digimon around her, begging her to make them stronger, coming after her like they're going to attack her. This would be horrifying. As the episode progresses, we learn that the big thing holding Renamon back is that Rika hasn't been able to show how much she cares for her. And in the end, that's what Renamon says is the reason why she was finally able to digivolve.
Rika, now do you understand?
I think I do.
I couldn't digivolve until you really cared about me, Rika.
Oh.
But though she says that, we also have this quick moment right after she digivolves, seemingly pointing to another reason.
But how?
It was you, Rika. You made me digivolve.
Game time!
The hints are getting more and more explicit that Calamon has this power. But then there's Impmon, who's a major player in this show, and I think it is very important when he shows up in this. Because our previous episode was all about Calamon, and how Calamon's a Digimon who doesn't need or want a partner. So when Impmon shows up now, we've already established that is a thing a Digimon can do and can want. As he's making this case to Renamon that Digimon shouldn't be held back by a human, we're meant to believe it because of what was established in the previous episode.
Even so, she's got you believing that you can't do anything for yourself. It's the most pathetic thing I've ever seen. All you Digi-slaves are the same. Deep down, you want to be just like me. I mean, after all, who wouldn't want to be like me? Handsome and free like a bird in a tree. Boom!
Of course, for anyone who has seen the entire series before, we're going to learn there's a bit more to that, but it's very clear that his first appearance was placed here for a very strategic means. We could make a similar argument for why he goes after Renamon to try to separate her from her partner, because Renamon is the one who seems the most distant from her partner, because, as this episode is demonstrating, Rika hasn't been able to really connect with her Digimon as a friend until now. But that's it for me with episode 6. Hit that follow button if you want to keep up with my rewatch of Digimon Tamers, and let me know what you're thinking so far. Continuing on my series, making a TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, it's time for episode 7. Now you see it, now you don't. And before anything else, let's get Calumon's great words of wisdom as told through Gilmon.
You know what? Calumon told me that being scared is pointless. It's kinda like trying to ice skate on sausages.
The biggest thing with this episode is we are finally getting a little bit more of a peek into Hypnos and Yamaki, its apparent leader. The organization of Hypnos has appeared in, I think, every episode, or at least close to it up until this point, but this is the first time we've ever gotten any names. And more than that, they give us a bit of an explanation about the digital world.
The network of interlinked electronic devices around the world, the internet, the stock markets, and even wireless communications has essentially created a whole new plane of existence, a digital plane. This system, Hypnos, monitors that world and records every exchange of information across it, looking for anything out of the ordinary.
Be it because of the pressure to deliver that Yamaki is under, or because of his hatred of these things, we don't really know yet, he starts going to extremes in this episode and outright trying to delete any digital field that's around. And he does this by unleashing something known as Yugoth. Quick little fun fact for the name, Yugoth is actually a planet from the Cthulhu mythos of H.P. Lovecraft. So you know it's this ancient, evil, dark entity, terrifying thing. And finally, we got a real heavy motif of dreams in this episode, interestingly enough. Starting off with Gilmon talking about himself dreaming and Takato being shocked at the idea that a Digimon can dream. Whether or not Gilmon is actually dreaming or not comes into question when how he sees dreaming seems to be comparable to what it's like when he's disappearing.
I must be dreaming again, right? Gilmon? Everything's fading. No. I think I'm going away.
But we get more of these dream comments, with Takato going to Rika and talking a lot more about the fact that he dreamed her, and then later on comparing their movement in the digital field to flying in a dream. And hey, this is the first episode of true teamwork of the 3 Tamers. Rika's still giving a lot of attitude about everything to do with this whole group, but she is there. She is a willing participant with the other 2. It's finally happening. We got our team. Welcome back to my series where I'm making a TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers. It is time for episode 8, A Matter of Trust, which specifically is the episode where all the adults want to get it on in the park, and Impmon is stopping this.
It's cold out here.
That's it, exactly.
And a fire would be nice. And a comfy couch. With me?
A fire? Allow me! What? So I forgot the couch!
This storyline goes so far as the police are trying to catch the person responsible because yes, people should be able to do it in the park.
I say, boy, are you the one?
The one?
The one interrupting the progress of human courtship.
I don't know.
How horny nearly every adult in this episode is just hilarious. But with all this going on, Takato is worried that it might be Gilmon getting involved, and that's where this matter of trust really comes in. We're seeing that Takato jumped immediately to the fact that it must be Gilmon, and then as soon as he sees that Gilmon isn't in his cage, he's like, yes, this is confirmation, this must all be Gilmon, it must be his fault. This is all contrasted with the people in Takato's life not believing it could be him, even when he seems sketchy. This is first with Jerry, who, while all the other girls in the class are saying it must be the boys who are doing this, Jerry comes up to Takato and says, don't worry, everyone knows it wasn't you. When Takato is caught out by the park late at night, his teacher comes up to him, saves him from the cop, and says, yeah, of course it's not you. How could it be? This is all demonstrating how much the people in Takato's life trust him, and emphasizing the point it's making about how Takato doesn't fully trust Gilmon at this point. Another major thing going on in this episode is we see for the first time a Digimon who's not one of our main reoccurring characters coming out of the digital field and causing havoc. Not only that, but being seen by people all over the city. Between the last episode and this one, Yamaki's really had it and he's ready to do something big. Gilmon takes on Davidramon, and it isn't until Takato learns that Gilmon wasn't responsible for stopping the horny adults in the park that he's able to say he fully trusts Gilmon. Gilmon is his friend, and Gilmon digivolves. Not only does he digivolve, but we essentially get confirmation that yes, Kellamon is responsible for this digivolving power. It has been something hinted at more and more and more, and this feels like the definite, like, yes, see, this is the case. But that is it for this episode of Digimon Tamers. Let me know how you're feeling about this series. Hit that follow button if you want to see more of these, and I'll see you next time. Continuing on my series where I am making a TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers, it is time for episode 9, Not As Seen on TV. The episode kicks off with Takato being afraid of Graumon. He's so big and terrifying, oh my god! It's almost just a callback to the end of the first episode where he's like, is Gilmon scary? But of course, no, we get the reveal here that even as Graumon, he's just a big baby.
Don't be afraid.
The whole episode is about trying to get Graumon to change back to Gilmon, and my biggest issue is that this is something we've kind of already dealt with. There was a very small, like 2-minute portion a couple episodes ago about Gargomon needing to change back to Terriermon, and that resolved pretty easily. And then when Cubimon had to turn back into Renamon, that was just off screen because it was so unimportant. So for this to be the third Digimon who's digivolved, and now they're making a big meal of this, it just seems weird. But as this and the title are getting into, this is about what it would be like to have a Digimon in the real world. While it's all exciting for Digimon on TV to digivolve, oh my god, look, they're bigger and cooler, oh my god. This is about how, no, Graumon's scary, what if he's evil now? And what do you actually do with this much bigger monster? They go through the methods of trying to make him exercise and then trying to hide him, and nothing seems to be working. I honestly don't have a lot to say about this episode, but I do have some highlights for lines I want to point out, like Graumon giving some more Kellamon wisdom.
Kellamon said that 2 o'clock in the morning is the very best time of all to play.
Kellamon?
Hey! Hi!
Rika finding any excuse to make fun of the boys, including their choice of paint, which for some reason I found hilarious.
You guys used water-based paint? You're even more pathetic than I thought.
Terriermon basically saying they should have made Graumon the mascot for Pride Month.
Now those are the colors we should have painted Graumon.
Terriermon,
And we end the episode on this idea that rainbows are special, that they're somehow absorbing data, and that is how Graumon de-digivolves into Gilmon. And while interesting and mysterious, I don't remember if this goes anywhere, if they ever come back to this idea of rainbows being special with data or anything. Will it be anything, or is this just a one-time mysterious thing? Anyway, that is it for this episode of Digimon Tamers. Be sure to hit that follow button if you are enjoying this journey so far and want to come along with me. And leave a comment letting me know what you think of the series so far and who you think would be the best Digimon to paint up for Pride Month. Welcome back to my series where I'm making a TikTok for all 51 episodes of Digimon Tamers. It is time to talk about episode 10, The Icemon Cometh. Even just starting off this episode is incredibly interesting in the way it is paralleling Itmon and Rika. The entire first third or so of the episode is having one scene of Rika, one scene of Itmon, both of them focusing on how they're not really understanding the other Digimon Tamer relationships. This is going to be something very important to keep in mind for the future. But the bulk of this episode is taken up by Rika being stalked by a Digimon. Ice Devimon is coming after her, following her, showing up behind her constantly, and making her really scared. The fear leads to her kind of exploding on Renamon and kind of canceling their partnership to an extent.
Because, Rika, I'm your partner.
Let's get this straight. I don't buy all this stuff about partners and feelings. I don't need you. I don't need anybody.
But when Ice Devimon gets a hold of Rika, this takes a darker turn.
I want you to be my tamer.
In your dreams, pal.
Don't play hard to get. You want to be the strongest Digimon tamer. I want to be the strongest Digimon. We're perfect for each other.
Never.
Are you thinking of that pitiful excuse for a Digimon of yours?
It's like the start of a super toxic relationship. This creepy guy being like, no, you're a partner, they're no good for you. I'm perfect for you. I understand the darkness inside of you. This all freaks Rika out so much that she doesn't even want to be around any Digimon after this, which I feel fits with this whole metaphor of this toxic stalker douchebag.
I hate Digimon, all of them.
Rika, you don't mean that. Cubimon, wait a minute, where are you going?
But because of this, we end the episode with Renamon and Rika splitting up. They're gonna go their own way, and, well, what's that gonna mean? I guess we'll have to wait till next time. That is it for this episode of Digimon Tamers. Be sure to hit that follow button to keep up with it. Let me know what you're thinking of this series, and I will see you next time.